A very direct question.
Hold on,
Do you think
hold on,
Israel
no.
wants to kill
Yes,
innocent civilians?
I do.
You think
I
Israel
do.
genuinely wants to?
I do.
What
I
evidence do you have of that?
The evidence is they are refusing to do special operations and instead are relying on bombing areas where they know civilians are at, and then they'll turn around and say, "Well, Hamas is using them as human shields."
So if someone was shooting at you,
if someone was,
you don't have kids, right?
If an armed man grabbed a family member of yours, do you have kids?
No, I don't.
Oh, do you have? Okay, your mother. You talked about your mother. If an armed gunman grabbed your mother, had a gun to her head, okay, and he is confronted by the authorities, by law enforcement, and law enforcement, they just decide, you know what? We're not going to negotiate. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to shoot the hell out of both of them. And then they come to you and say, well, your mother, sorry, was a human shield. Would you accept that argument?
That's not the question, though.
Would you accept that argument?
You're making up a random story that what my mother is held captive.
Hamas using Palestinians as human shields is not a justification to indiscriminately bomb the hell out of that region, knowing full well that the majority of people who are going to end up dying are not Hamas militants who are underground in the tunnels. Okay, it's the innocent civilians who are going to lose their lives.
But they are not. So the Palestinians that are being killed deliberately.
They are not.
You can't shoot. You can't fire a missile by accident. Well, you can, but that's not. No one's claiming that that's what's happening here. Can I run something by you, Stuart?
Sure.
What if Hamas was hiding in Israel? What would the Israeli government do then to eradicate them?
They would seek them out.
But no, what would they do? Would they adopt the same policies? Would they be blowing up Israeli hospitals after issuing a warning to get all the patients out of intensive care?
Hospital. That's another myth, isn't it? They haven't blown up a hospital.
Well, don't let me distract you from the question I asked. How do you think the Israel? No. I said that they have, prior to presumably bombarding it, they've issued an order to evacuate from the Al-Quds hospital in Gaza City. So no, we can agree on what the facts are. Let's not get distracted from the central question. If Hamas was hiding in Israel, what policies would you still approve of the Israeli collateral damage approach to eradicating Hamas?
I don't approve of anything. I don't disapprove or approve of anything.
Okay. Would you still use the phrase collateral? Would you still use the phrase collateral damage?
Yes, of course I would.
So 3,000 dead Israelis would be a price worth paying for the pursuit of Hamas.
I didn't say the Palestinians.
Well, what are you saying, Stuart? What are you saying?
I'm just saying it's very important to be specific and be very.
I am being specific.
Language.
I am. I'm saying
what would you? You can presume that Israel are murdering.
No, I've done the opposite of that. I've done the opposite of that. I spent 20 minutes at the top of the show outlining the existential motivation of Israel's actions, talked about Dagestan, and I said people will have a problem with however I do this, and I'm grateful to you for proving that. But I think this is a really important question. Whenever I hear the phrase collateral damage, or I hear objections to language or claims that it's not the same, do you think that if Hamas was hiding in Israel, the Israeli army would be pursuing the same tactics in pursuit of them with regard to civilian life?
No, I don't.
Well, there it is. Why not?
Because Hamas are the enemy in another country. It would be a terrorist situation.
It is a terrorist situation, but why would they not go after Hamas with the same tactics in Israel that they're going after them in Palestine, in Gaza?
For obvious reasons.
Well, tell me what they are.
Because they wouldn't be. If they were in a hospital, people do get killed in hospital situations. Yeah. They do eventually storm buildings, and the hospital.
Why is collateral damage acceptable in one?
I didn't say it was acceptable. I didn't say anything.
Why is it collateral damage then if it happens in Gaza but not if it happens in Israel?
The motivation is different between the murderous death cult.
Yes, I agree. I completely agree. But that's why I'm not asking that question.
When you say words like they're doing it on purpose and it's out of revenge, you have absolutely no proof that they are killing.
I didn't say they were doing it on revenge. I said families of the victims of Hamas attacks have warned Israel's government that revenge is not a policy amid mounting concerns about civilian casualties in Gaza. You don't get to put words in my mouth, but you do get to answer.
Say that, and also you
do get to answer my question. Why would it be different for the Israeli army to cause collateral damage in Israel as opposed to in Gaza? Why would it be different?
I would say they're less likely to do that.
No, but this is the question. Why would they be less likely to go after Hamas in the same way if they were hiding in Israel that they are if they're hiding in Gaza?
Because there would be Israelis there.
Pardon?
And they would care less about. They would care more about Israeli lives than Palestinian lives. But they're also.
And that's it. That's all I wanted, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your honesty.
Well.
It's 10-4. No, you carry on. Talk about the hostages.
Let's talk about war crimes. Human rights groups, as well as the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, have accused Hamas of committing war crimes. But they've also accused Israel of war crimes in Gaza too, which you blame on Hamas. So I have a simple question for you. If Hamas gunmen were hiding out in a school in Tel Aviv or an apartment block in Haifa, would you be okay with the Israeli Air Force dropping bombs on those buildings, leveling them, killing the innocent Israelis inside in order to get the Hamas gunmen? Would you do that?
But you're right in your question. Of course, Hamas hides behind students and children. That's their whole policy. That's why we've had the casualties we've had. Hamas deliberately embeds itself, as you said in your question, amongst civilians. The fact that they buried themselves under the Shifa hospital in Gaza City, not one hospital, but a whole series of hospitals. They
Mark,
took
with respect,
over
you're not answering my
and they turned
question.
them into military installations.
Would you bomb?
I am answering your question.
Would you bomb schools and houses in Israel if Hamas militants were believed to be under them and kill Israeli human shields in the process?
We don't deliberately kill anyone. That's not a fair question. What we are trying to do is eliminate this threat.
Okay, would you accidentally kill Israeli human shields? I'll ask you a very simple question.
We wouldn't want to accidentally kill anyone. We wouldn't accidentally, no, we wouldn't accidentally want to kill anyone.
Understood.
But can I tell you, when the West fought ISIS, when the West fought ISIS in Fallujah and in Mosul, also there, ISIS used human shields. They actually used a hospital, I believe, in Mosul. You probably know this as well as I do.
I do. And what America did was wrong,
and the West was fought. But I think it's actually, I think America did the right thing. You had to defeat these brutal terrorists.
Would you apply the tactics of Gaza?
But you're saying to me,
in Israel, it's a simple question.
We wouldn't allow them to take over a school in the first place. We'd send in special forces and we'd take out the terrorists.
I know you're over on. You're out of time.
I did answer your question. Why did you say I did not answer your question? You didn't answer. I didn't answer it the way. I didn't answer it in the way you wanted me to answer it. That's the problem. I didn't answer it the way you wanted me to answer it. We would send in special forces. And we would neutralize the terrorists. That's what we've done in the past.
Notice he says he'll send in special forces to neutralize. He didn't say he'll send in jets, planes, tanks, and level and bomb the shit out of the whole place, right? So he even admits that if hostages were in Tel Aviv, he'd send in special forces. But if the hostages are in Israel, then in Gaza, then he'd just bomb everything to pieces. Because again, Israeli lives are more precious than Palestinian lives.
In your view, is killing 274 Palestinians, including many children, an acceptable price to pay for the freeing of 4 Israelis?
Like I said, I don't. You want a clear answer. Yeah. You want to make this black and white.
Is it an acceptable price to pay?
It's an unacceptable price, but I think it's a price that has to be paid.
Wow. Okay, so how many Palestinians would it be acceptable to kill in order to get back a single hostage? What's the upper limit? Would 400?
When we start talking about human lives, every single one life is too many. And let me just, let's be human here.
274 is a price that has to be paid.
Because
I'm saying if it was 1,000, would you pay that?
Because in my estimation, if we look at questions like this in a vacuum, of course we're going to come up with different answers than in the context of the entire challenge of the Middle East. Because if we are increasingly seen, the United States of America in particular, as unwilling to sometimes do what's necessary to demonstrate some strength and prevent.
Congressman, you just said a moment ago we have a history of killing thousands of innocent people.
We do. And my father died in a war that was.
I do need to ask a question for the value of Palestinian life.
Yes.
So, if you're saying that to get free people from the clutches of horrible captivity, hostages, people possibly being abused in captivity, to free them, you have to pay a price, right? It's a horrible price. Does that ratio work the other way? How many Israelis can Palestinians kill in order to free Palestinian detainees who are currently being tortured in Israeli captivity, some of them being raped to death, according to the New York Times last week? Can they kill 200 Israelis? Hold on, let me finish the question. Can they kill 200 Israelis to free 4 Palestinians who are being tortured in an Israeli prison?
I think it's a question that I'm sure Palestinians are asking the same way as Israelis.
But no, you answered it. You answered it for Israel. I would like you to answer it in reverse.
Let me just clarify something you just said. You said Palestinian prisoners are being raped to death by Israeli soldiers.
Yes, this is a report in the New York Times last week.
I don't believe that to be true. Nonetheless, the question.
A 41-year-old detainee said the interrogators made me sit on something like a hot metal stick, and it felt like fire. He said another detainee died after they put the electric stick up his anus.
It's repulsive.
This is an Israeli dungeon that CNN and New York Times have both reported on. So to free people from that prison, can you kill lots of innocent people according to the logic of the raid in Gaza?
What I'm trying to say is, if you represent the Palestinian people, you represent the Israeli people, we look at this quite differently. I don't want to see...
I know you do, which is why I'm asking the question, Congressman. I understand that you see it differently. A lot of people watching at home say, why? Why aren't all lives equal? You see it differently. A lot of people watching at home say, why? Why aren't all lives equal?
They should be.
But they're not.
Well, then let's go. Then let's go. Look, what I don't want to do is get into a debate of who suffered worse, whose lives.
By the way, I'm asking about our lives treated equally.
Innocent Palestinian lives matter just as much as innocent Israeli lives, Muslim lives as much as Jewish and Christian lives. That's who I am. Now, with all that said, war is hell, and this is nauseating. And we're trying
I worry
to get
about
back.
this line, war is hell, because can't Hamas say the same thing when you accuse them of war crimes? They can say war is hell.
Yes,
Isn't that why we have rules to war? So that we stop it from being hell?
Yes, they can. War is...
You'll notice, John, how Elon quickly went to abstract generalities. Let's talk specifics. Let's talk about tunnels. I think it's abhorrent to hide tunnels under civilian targets. I wish they didn't do that. But when Israel shoots children in the head, 3 American doctors went to Gaza. Dr. Feyyaz Sidra, Dr. Irfan Galaria, and a Jewish American doctor called Dr. Mark Perlmutter. All of them came back at separate times, said children were brought into hospitals we were in with gunshot to the head, sniper shots. Perfect. Exact targets. There is no tunnel that justifies shooting toddlers in the head. Israeli snipers.